welcome everyone to Dick Storks and Destinies. I'm your host Chapel, and today I'm here with the Kid and Crash, and we're talking about anime. This is our
And today's episode is brought to you and sponsored by Equal Opportunity Insurance, where your privacy is our policy, and we have a policy for
That's right. Especially if like a, a film studio or a production company has bought your favorite franchise that has buried it into the fucking ground with bad takes and even worse writing.
you. Stop talking about the casting couch like that.
Hey now, they'll get a good one up there every so often.
I think he's talking about the mouse. They did ruin Snow White, apparently.
I'm not surprised by that. But that was their own franchise. It's not like they went out and bought it to ruin it.
What got ruined?
Snow White.
Snow White.
Snow White.
Yeah, the new Snow White film is absolute garbage.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've been seeing posts about how it dethroned Dragon Ball Evolution as the worst film in history.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, it had a $250 million budget and brought in $44 million its opening weekend.
Yep.
Like, its Rotten Tomato score is like 1.7 or 1.9, where Dragon Ball Evolution had a 2.0.
At least Dragon Ball Evolution was like, at least my visuals are somewhat nice.
Well, what it was, the lead actress was like, I never seen the original, but the prince ain't saving me in this one.
Yeah.
And then politics got involved.
I mean, who the fuck has not seen the original Snow White and the Seven Dwarves? Like, that was a staple for kids growing up. Period.
Yeah.
Well,
and apparently the Seven Dwarves are now called magical creatures, and they are all CGI'd instead of being played by little
by
people.
Actual dwarfs.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, people
forget. Yeah, that was the big thing with fucking Brad Williams and the guy who wrestled as Hornswoggle in WWE. They had a big fucking stink about it because Peter Dinklage told people over fucking like Jimmy Kimmel and shit like that no, that Hollywood should not employ dwarfs to play in the Snow White film.
Yeah. Yeah,
and both Brad Williams and Hornswoggle said, "Who fucking elected Peter Dinklage king of the dwarves?"
Well, it was because Peter Dinklage was like, dwarves should be able to play more than just a dwarf role. He's like, you shouldn't just cast them. He's cast just dwarves as dwarves. I believe his point was poorly represented by his own take, but I believe what he was trying to get across was that
dwarves are capable of playing more roles than just fucking short people in films.
Right.
Yeah, because he played somebody on Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, but that character was also a dwarf, like in the books.
Yeah, in the books by George R.R. Martin and everything else, Peter Dinklage's character in the book series is a dwarf. So he got casted. He's a dwarf that got casted to play a dwarf.
I got you. Yeah, the lead actress also said it like the prince who saved her was like kind of a stalker.
No. At this point, Disney should just fucking stop with remaking their
Yeah,
films
I'm
into
right
live
here.
action films.
You can't get over when I'm beside you, and you got your blind spot on your mirror. Duh. If you got a car equipped with blind spot monitoring, and your little yellow light is on your mirror, that means I can't get over. But I'm going to try to anyways. All right, let's
Yeah.
move on.
All right. No,
Tennessee.
so
Tennessee drivers.
yeah, Tennessee drivers. So apparently, from what I'm understanding, is Peter Dinklage was like Snow White's just fucking backwards, and he thinks that in the past, or he thinks that movies shouldn't hire actors with dwarfism as fantasy dwarves, even though his like in the last 20 years, the only like for the most part, with the exception of maybe two, all the dwarves or all the fantasy movies that had dwarves in them hired him as a dwarf.
Right.
I mean, the only two was like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So
Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
There's not a single short person in that. Well, I mean, there's not a single little person in that film.
I'm about to say Willy Wonka too, because they CGI'd all the Oompa Loompas in the remake.
They CGI'd all the fucking. Okay, let me get this one. The fuck, what is his name?
I think it was Hugh Grant that played.
No. I'm talking about the original. Who played Willy Wonka in the original? I want to say his name was like Gene Wilder or some shit like that. I
Yeah.
don't fucking remember.
Yeah.
That film actually had midgets playing the Oompa Loompas. The
Yeah.
Johnny Depp remake and this new remake had one actor CGI'd as all of the Oompa Loompas. And Hugh Grant was the latest adaptation.
right. Let's see here. So, getting back to our original topic.
Yeah, Crash had a sidetrack for a moment.
Yeah, I hear you. So,
I sidetrack myself sometimes.
this is going to be a doozy of an episode. I can just feel it.
Do what?
I said this is going to be a doozy of an episode. I can just feel it.
Why is
Well,
that?
I got about 5 more minutes and I'll be home, so I'm going to bed.
Oh, I've got stuff happening in the background. And I'm sure it's getting recorded.
Hey, you're supposed to take care of that before we get online.
I can't
So-
help it. Sometimes it just happens.
So what anime are we wanting to talk about?
Oh, I've only got like 2 new anime I've really started watching. No, I
Okay,
take that
what are
back.
your 2?
I take that back. There's 3.
Okay, well, you just added one more. So what have you been watching?
There's
I
one.
got 0.
Yeah, we're not surprised by that, Crash. The first one's called Ubelblot.
Okay.
It's a fantasy anime, but it's about a guy who got, instead of being isekai to another world, he's just reincarnated as someone who was murdered, and he's out for revenge.
Okay.
Another one's called Sakamoto Days, and it's about a hitman or a retired hitman who's dealing with the mafia trying to come after him because they don't want him to retire. And the one I just picked up is called Frieren, and it's about an elf who she's already like she's already had one of her major adventures in life, but it was so early on that she's watching all of her friends like age and die out, and she's having
Okay.
to deal with that on an emotional like level. Like there's still
Yeah,
like
well,
lots of action and stuff in that, but
I'm nowhere in that ballpark for any one of those three.
okay.
I jumped on the bandwagon hard with one anime,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll
and it's
talk to y'all
Solo
later.
Leveling.
Have a good one, Crash. We'll see you later, man.
All right, we'll see.
But I jumped on the Solo Leveling bandwagon.
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet.
Well, I mean, I don't know anything about the actual. I don't even know how to pronounce the name for in Korean, what it translates to, and everything else. So I'm just gonna go with what I know.
Well, everyone
The Korean manga.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me. Yeah.
I've never read the manga for it. I've never looked at it, never seen it, everything else. And I've been, and, when I jumped onto the bandwagon for Solo Leveling, I was going off of posts and reviews and everything else. And I will have to say that it is within like my top 10 favorites right now.
Yeah, I haven't started
And
watching that one yet, so
the best way I can describe it is it's not really like an isekai world or anything else like that. They live in a world, something happened, magic portals started opening up, mana started flowing into the world, and the mana started changing and evolving human society into like an awakening phase, where they awaken magical powers. Some are able to use fire, some are able to use ice, some are able to use like stealth abilities like chameleon, actual stealth. Some get enhanced strength and abilities. I don't know about everyone else. I seen one guy go full berserker. Like the moment he got hit or he saw his own blood, he went into a berserker rage. One guy I've seen turn into like this giant fucking lion / tiger type creature.
mm-hmm.
So that's basic, humans, because they get their little awakening. Are considered what they call hunters at that point in time. And I mean that I didn't go through it all because I mean I seen other shit. There's healers, there's ranged weapon users. It's like real life world abilities of like tabletop games and video games that most of us have all played, like World of Warcraft, Dungeons and Dragons and shit like that.
Yeah.
And those that awaken that way, they call them hunters. The hunters are ranked on 6 different levels. You've got E being the lowest rank,
Mm-hmm.
then D, then C, then B, then A. And then you've got the top tier, which is F.
Right.
So, and the story revolves around one guy who is he's an E rank hunter, and they named him the worst hunter in all of human history. Like,
Okay.
he can't even take on E ranked, what they call magical beast. That's what they fight.
Okay.
E rank magic beast will whip his ass. Like he's gone in. The story talks about him going into like 10 raids prior to the opening of the show or the anime, and every one of them he's come out gravely fucking injured. And then it goes into the reason why it's called solo leveling is because a tragic event happens while he's in a dungeon with a group. Him and like four, maybe five, maybe I think there's like maybe four total that survive the dungeon, and he stays behind. Well, the only reason why he survives is because he stayed behind something in the dungeon. There's something to go with the dungeon that whenever he came out, he gained what was essentially a second awakening.
Okay.
And the second awakening for him is that he was now deemed what they're calling the player. And now that he's the player, he has special dungeons that he can do himself. He's got daily quests that he's got to do, or else he gets penalized. Those daily quests, those special dungeons, and everything else help him level up. So he gets, your normal like D&D, your normal stats, your strength, your dexterity, your intelligence, your everything. And he gets daily quest that allows him to gives him 3 if he completes the daily quest. It gives him 3 points into which he can put into any stat that he wants to. Every time he levels up, all his stats level up by 1.
Okay.
And as far as this goes, the anime is now in season 2. He is now the newest S rank hunter they're in Korea. And he is essentially a fucking god right now.
But they're only in season 2. It seems like he should. Okay.
And I don't think there's going to be too much more. I think there might be a grand total of like maybe 3, 4 if they push it as far as the seasons go, as far as the Korean manga goes, because there's not much to it.
Yeah.
Because you start out with him being the weakling. Season 2, he gets stronger. He becomes like the champion, the hero. Season 3, he finally faces off against the big bad evils or whatever. And season 4 is he's married with a kid, and now the kid becomes the new him.
Gotcha. I don't know.
That's what I know from looking into it.
Right. So like that kind of reminds me of a book series I'm reading. It's called Ultimate Level 1. And it's a fantasy world very similar to what you're describing. The only difference is that the gifts that they're given are given by the gods, and when I think it's when they hit 18, they get their powers. But there's like a whole like adventurer or guild that's kind of in charge of that. And if you have certain colors and you're not like a noble or someone who can pay off to make sure that shit's hidden, they basically the main character his power is considered black, and he's like they were just going to take him out and kill him, and his best friend and his sister break him out of where they're at, and he spends like I'm only about 3 books in. But he spends the first 3 books like hiding and growing in power.
No, that's kind of how this happens in the anime too. I mean, I don't know if you want to watch it or not, so I don't really want to give away too much.
Well, I mean, like in this book, there are people who are at the top of the echelon in power who are who are actively looking for him throughout the country to kill him before he gets too powerful. So he has
I
to be
mean,
careful about what name he uses. Like he changes his name in the first book, and he only tells his like very very closest friends what his actual name is, and then he doesn't tell people what his actual name is, and his friends use his fake name, and he uses. They're very careful about how much popularity they get and how much they stand out in a crowd. Because the thing is he doesn't gain experience, so he never goes up in level. He always stays at level 1. But the way his power works is he gains statistics on his own.
okay, yeah, that's kind of like what solo leveling is. I mean, like I said, I didn't really want to give away too much about it, but I mean, fuck. The first couple of episodes, they go into a dungeon. The thing of it is about in the world with the magic portal showing up. They have like a limited time frame.
Yeah.
To one, gauge the power of the dungeons, and two, close the dungeons before what's called a dungeon break happens. And when the dungeon break happens, all the magical beasts on the other side of that portal spill into the real world.
Gotcha.
Like there's been one major dungeon break in the series, and it's centered around an island called Jeju Island. They've raided that island like 2 times since the dungeon break, and every time they've lost massive amount of hunters.
Okay.
Because I believe that the dungeon break itself, or the dungeon itself, was considered like an A or S rank dungeon. And when it broke, those creatures come spilling out, and now you're facing thousands of A rank and S rank creatures. And that's that's the main point behind the whole anime, is they're trying to close. They're not trying to close, but they're trying to defeat the magical beast that came through on that dungeon break on that island.
Yeah.
But like I said, they have I think there's like 10 days that they have once the portal appears. You have 10 days to clear it before it breaks and everybody comes spilling through. Like, you don't know what you're facing when you're going through. They show multiple dungeon instances where one was where he went in, it's a bunch of bugs that he's fighting, and the boss at the end is a spider. There's one that he went into where it was a bunch of ice bears that he was fighting, and the boss was a fucking elf.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you're going to face. I mean, there's insects, there's humanoid creatures, there's goblins, dragons, shit like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's fair.
And whenever he becomes the player, he goes into a dungeon, like I said, with like a group of like 10 people. There's more than enough people there to, kill everything there. They also, there's 2 types of stones that they mine, or they take possession of, that they bring back to their world, and they use those stones. One of them is monocrystals. They help power that. Basically, I don't even think at that point in that world that they have an actual electric company. They use monocrystals to power everything and shit like that. There's also some type of, I don't remember the name of the stone, but it comes off the magical beast when you kill them. And
Okay.
just like Just like the hunters, those stones are ranked E to S, and you can use those stones. Though the creature, I'm just gonna call it the creature stones. You can use the creature stones to make better gear, weapons, and everything else in our world.
Huh. Okay, so it
And
gives like the monsters don't just disappear. Like if you kill
oh,
something,
when you kill it, it's laying there dead.
yeah, you can harvest it.
They
Yeah.
they harvest shit off of it. They even drag some of the monsters out of the dungeon back with them so that they can be examined, studied, and everything else, so they can use what they learn off that dead creature to make better gear and weapons to combat those creatures.
Okay. Yeah.
Like there's a whole lucrative business inside the dungeons. It's not just, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's gold and shit and stuff in there that you can, take and carry out. But the prized possessions are the mana stones, the creature stones, and the creature bodies itself.
Okay.
Because they use their skin, their weapon, they study their skins, their skin, their bones, everything else. They use that shit to study them to help the hunters be better in the dungeons and close them faster, so on and so forth.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so yeah, no, I definitely would like to check it out just to see if I'd be entertained by it. The fight scenes look pretty badass. That's something else I gotta say. I've been seeing little clips here and there of One Piece and where they're at in One Piece, and damn, I am ready to catch up.
That's the thing about today's age in the anime. Our fight scenes that you and I are used to watching are now pathetic compared to what we're witnessing now.
Well, they can do a lot more. Although I have a friend of mine. He's like, the more he notices like the fight scenes are becoming more elaborate, he's like, in his opinion, the lower the quality of the animation is, just to kind of hurry it along.
And they're not hurrying along solo leveling.
Yeah.
I mean, they hurried up after they did season 1. They hurried season 2 along because season 3 is going to be the most taxing on them as far as animation goes.
Yeah. The thing is I am okay with like the seasons coming out like they are now in Japan, as long as I'm getting higher quality anime. Because a lot of people who don't watch anime or haven't watched anime, or people who haven't watched anime back when it was coming out, like a lot, like the big three, they don't understand that anime used to come out every single week. They didn't skip a week. They had 7 days to do everything.
There was 7 days to give us a brand new episode.
Yeah. So, and that wound up like killing animators, and not in a figurative way. It like a lot of animators like died from being overworked. So now they have like a schedule, and I'm okay with like getting maybe 2 or 3 episodes, like even up to a month, of separation, as long as I get like higher quality stuff. Because I remember watching Hellsing Ultimate when it was coming out, and it would take a year between episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But then everything was
both.
Yeah.
Because I was pestering you quite frequently. Is there a new fucking episode of Hellsing Ultimate yet?
Yep. Nope. It's not coming out till next year. You just chill out. We can watch, what they've made up till now again if you want to, but they don't have anything else made. Believe me, I'll know before you will.
then you told me, dude, the new episode of Hellsing Ultimate just dropped. Sweet. Now I've got something to watch.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
like,
I mean, with that, I agree. If they don't put them out, an episode a week, and they make us wait, the quality has to be there.
yeah, yeah, and
I mean, I love my fight scenes. I the fight scenes because I mean I rewatched because they only put out 3 seasons of Thousand Year Blood War so far.
yeah.
I've already rewatched that like 2 to 3 times
Well, the thing is
just
like,
because of the fight scenes.
I think my thing is like, I don't want the animators to be like suffering and dying from being overworked for my entertainment. I'm not cool with that.
I'm not either.
And then we also, like, Akira Toriyama died. What was it? Last year or year before last? I think it was last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Toriyama died last year, and he died. I mean, there was never a full completion of Dragon Ball Super.
No.
The last thing that he did was with Super was the movie Superhero.
Yeah. That's why so many people like it, though.
There's 2 whole arcs after that.
Yeah.
I mean, he finished it in the manga form, but
Yeah.
there's 2 whole arcs that are I don't even know if they'll ever animate it, and that's the Moro. The Moro arc and the Granola arc. I don't think those 2 are ever coming out. He did do Diamond before passing away. And Daima is his work, and he gave the animators, free reign to do that manga series, which makes it canon to the Dragon Ball universe.
Right.
Which is also what a lot of people are stating is making GT now canon.
Yeah, because didn't he work on GT as well?
No, he did not.
Okay.
He even stated it that GT was a bastardization of his work.
Okay. Gotcha. So he was not a fan of GT.
Oh God, no, he was not.
Which I think it's funny because, in is it called Dragon Ball Dairama?
Daima. You're talking about the new Dragon Ball that came out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Daima. That's the one that everyone's saying that makes GT canon, but it doesn't make GT canon. What
the point I was trying to make was, and I'm sorry, I had to throw a cat out of the fucking room. In Daima, they get like turned back into kids again, do they not?
Yep.
Similar to that's what I thought. Like
they get turned back into kids again. You get to see Goku as a kid again. You get to see Vegeta as a kid. We get Super Saiyan level 4 again. Vegeta gets Super Saiyan level 3. They also go back from being a child back into adult as well.
Okay.
That Daima is Toriyama's vision, creation, and everything. Daima is supposed to take place in between the Tournament of Power. Well, I'm just going to say in between, the Tournament of Power and the I don't remember which one comes first. I think it's Moro. It's supposed to take place in between Dragon Ball Super with Moro and of the tournament at the conclusion of Tournament of Power, which is
Gotcha.
also where we get the new Broly film and superhero.
Okay.
And like I said, their whole thing of, well, it makes GT canon. No, it doesn't make GT canon. It actually still eliminates GT, but we get to see shit that we wanted to see with Akira Toriyama's illustration and vision and writing and so on and so forth that GT tried to give us,
Yeah.
but failed.
So my thing with that is like I completely understand the whole, like, he doesn't want GT, but he understands that some of the fans enjoyed GT.
He understood that the fans enjoyed Super Saiyan 4.
Yeah. The thing is
That's
if
the only thing he took away from with Daima. That's the only thing he really took away from GT.
Well, that
he
and,
took
that and making Goku and the rest of them kids again.
Right. He gave Vegeta Super Saiyan 3, which we never thought was ever going to happen.
Yeah, it's just Vegeta with no eyebrows and longer hair.
Well, I mean, that's how Super Saiyan 3 is for Goku. It's Goku with extremely long blonde hair and no eyebrows.
So
and now Vegeta doesn't have to use, in GT, Bulma had to create a machine to turn Vegeta into a Super Saiyan 4, where Goku mastered that on his own. Don't even think that they have to use the Great Ape form anymore to do that.
Yeah, the Golden Ozaru, which I don't understand why he didn't use that, because that came from his own canon.
Well, I mean, but you're talking about a man who fucking forgot the hair color of one of his characters.
Yeah.
He even openly stated whenever he did Dragon Ball Super and it started to become into animation, like, he forgot what Bulma's hair color was. He had not wrote and done anything in so long after the end of Dragon Ball Z.
Okay,
because that's where he wanted. That's where he wanted the story to end, was at Z. He didn't want to continue on.
I totally understand that, but he didn't think, or nobody didn't bother to go, hey, why don't you just go back and look at what you did before?
No, they didn't.
Like, and a lot of people, as a creator, a lot of people forget that we do want valid criticism. Even if it comes off as harsh or nice or whatever, if it's valid criticism, that's fine. We'll get over our feelings if we're a good, creator about it.
Right.
So, like, I got that book I wrote a long time ago, right? And if I started going back and writing, and if I forgot something, and I was like, man, I can't remember what I did for this, my first instinct would be to go back and read what I had already wrote, or talk to someone who had read it, so that I could, especially someone who's a fan.
If I have a team,
yeah,
around me, I'm going to task someone in that team to make sure that I have fluid continuity.
Yeah.
Like, your sole job is to make sure that I don't fuck something up.
Yeah. And the thing
if I
is
said that my main character lost his left fucking arm, and then I start talking about him drawing his sword with his left fucking arm, I need you to stop me and go, hey, no, the arm's gone.
Yeah. Or go, how did the arm come back? Something like that. Something to that effect. So that I realize that at some point I've made a continuity error and I need to go and fix it. Anyway, I've got to get ready because I have a doctor's appointment,
All right.
and I'm going to have to go. And I've got to get ready for that. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to us. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. And again, today's episode was brought to you by Equal Opportunity Insurance. Where your policy...
Your privacy.
Yeah, where your
Where
privacy is our
privacy-
policy. I see. I almost fucked up again. All right. You guys have a wonderful day.